Hey guys, just doing a quick introduction to this podcast. Unfortunately, Jack's internet connection was a bit crap, so he was trying to join and then leaving basically throughout the entire podcast, which is a real shame. So he wasn't really able to contribute to the discussion, but nevertheless, it's still a really good conversation with James. We touched on his history with scoliosis, how he manages that pain and still balances bodybuilding with that. We also talk about how you can still bodybuild and maybe some things that you should focus on if potentially you're not the most genetically gifted, whether you want to compete if you're not genetically gifted. And we also sort of go on a few tangents like the use of steroids and sort of our thoughts on that as well. So really good all-round discussion. Hope you guys liked it. If you did like it, please give a rating. If not, no worries and enjoy the podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Recreational Bodybuilding Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Freeman. We've got my main man, Jack Rayner, on the other side, and we're also joined by James Walsham over in New Zealand. So James is an online coach for the Hypertrophy Hub and also really cool podcast host for the Hypertrophy Hub podcast as well. So make sure you go check that out. James, maybe want to give a bit of an introduction to yourself and maybe your background for the listeners?
Yeah, so as you said, I am an online coach for hypertrophy specifically. So in terms of why I do what I do, I have an undergraduate degree in podiatry, which is completely unrelated. And throughout that degree, I basically realized that a lot of the problems within health are caused primarily by lifestyle disease. I would say like just a crazy amount of them are caused primarily by either insufficient lifestyle modifications or basically no diet and exercise. And to me, I find that quite sad. So then for me, I was already intensely interested in hypertrophy, and then I started looking into the health repercussions of hypertrophy, and they are very, very, very vast. And I find that absolutely fascinating. So for me, I try to sort of lean more towards hypertrophy for bodybuilding's sake. I do love bodybuilding. I think bodybuilding is an amazing sport. It is a dangerous sport, I would say, as well. However, it is definitely an amazing, beautiful sport. If you want to call it a sport, I think you can. And I also like to look at hypertrophy from the lens of health, because I think it is one of the most powerful mechanisms to improve health in the general population and in normal people as well. So that's kind of that. Then I interview people about it as well. Like I interview smart people and then they tell me smart people things, and yeah.
Nice. And are you sort of taking your education further with regards to sort of moving more into the hypertrophy side of things?
Yeah, so I'm doing my graduate diploma at AUT right now. So that's setting me up for my master's, and then my master's will be 2 years as well, probably at AUT, I assume. I think it'll be at AUT. I'm pretty set on AUT so far. I don't know if I'll go further than that, but for now the plan is master's. And I would like to do some research in hypertrophy, obviously, in hypertrophy surrounding potentially something like diabetes. I think that'd be interesting. However, it need to be a lot more narrow than that, or a lot more specific, but that would be really fun. Start off with research and then see how we go. But yeah, for now, continuing education to make sure I'm a good coach.
Nice. And I think something that maybe you missed out from your background, James, and something that I think is probably quite unique to a lot of our audience, and maybe some who perhaps don't know a lot about it, is the fact that you live with scoliosis as well. I don't want to sort of try and butcher an attempt at giving in a bit of background to that. So maybe you want to touch on what that is and how that maybe impacts both day-to-day life and sort of your journey in bodybuilding as well.
Yeah, so scoliosis effectively is a curvature of the spine. So most people have natural curvatures of the spine that are quite small. I had one that was sort of, most people in this specific sort of, from this plane of looking at it, most people would have zero. So it's just a straight line effectively. From the other plane, sort of side on, you would be seeing curvatures, but from this plane, you would see zero in most people, or some people would have a minor scoliosis. Mine was 56 degrees. Like a minor one might be 5, 3, or 10, something like that, which wouldn't require any treatment whatsoever. Mine was 56. So then when we first found it, it would have been like in the mid 40s something. And that's measured in degrees in the specific angle, the Cobb angle, doesn't really matter. And basically the only choice really was surgery. The outcomes for bracing, which is another method of treatment, is very low. So I had a spinal fusion surgery. So that's basically chopped me open. You can Google the surgery. It's on YouTube and stuff, not mine, but another one. And it's a fusion from T3 to L2, so 70% of the spine roughly. I've still got a lot of movement. I get a decent amount of pain if I don't manage it correctly. However, I try to kind of like online put out the message of pain management is actually relatively easy. I would say it's just depending on how, I want to use the word intelligent, but that feels like the wrong word, but how intelligently you go about managing it. Like you can make your pain a lot worse by doing things that make it worse. Like for instance, I was having lower back pain recently and it was quite severe, like probably 8 out of 10, pretty bad, like really struggling to walk at some points. But then basically I figured out, it's like, okay, why is this happening? Excess walking, and also excess sitting for long periods, and sitting without actually thinking about how I'm sitting. So I think that's basically what caused it to me. And then how did I fix it? Also, I was doing basically no hip hinges, no back extension, because I don't have a back extension or hip hinges at home. So it's just like, fuck it, I won't do it. And then basically fixed it by effectively, for me, just doing some movement in that sort of area. And it's like I found that was a really important thing for that. But for the pain, it's like it doesn't. It's sometimes debilitating. Sometimes I forget it's there. Like sometimes I'll just be sitting in my chair, this chair, and I'll just be like, oh fuck, and then I know I'm fucked for the rest of the day, and I have to go work out of my bed or something, or like do nothing. Like it ranges a lot. Like, and it's sometimes nothing, sometimes a lot. The amount that it affects bodybuilding is mainly like movement choice. I know I can't do a lot of movements and I'm okay with that. And it's also made me learn a lot more about exercise selection and the lack of importance of that, but also the areas in which it is important. For instance, really basic example, like bench squat deadlift, the idea that they're not mandatory, for me that was like revolutionary when I first learned that. And yeah, it doesn't affect me too much until it does, and then when it does, it's debilitating. But it's very, for those people who have it, it's very easily managed. You just have to figure out the factors that make the pain worse or better, and it's very individualistic as well, which is why I don't ever try to act online like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to scoliosis, because everyone's case is so different. Because there's someone fused, do they have bracing, how big is their curve, where does their curve affect them? Like for instance, I have an internally rotated shoulder on my right side, and then on my left it's pretty normal, and that basically my pec is like half the size of the left one. So it's like that's one thing that is specific to me. Not everyone has it. I found rare, probably like 2 out of 10 people with scoliosis have that. So it's very wide ranging, but I've found that a lot of people with chronic conditions, I spoke to this lovely lady, what's her name? Matilda something or other, on the podcast a while ago. And it was fascinating because she had a really interesting chronic condition as well. And similar kind of things come out of it. Like you kind of had this other guy, Mo Samuels, as well. He's a UK YouTuber. I've spoken to him a lot about it, and there's a similar feeling of like, hey, your life is pretty short. You might die at some point. Do something useful. Like that sort of gets thrown into your mind pretty young, I guess.
Yeah. Nice.
In a least depressing way possible.
Yeah, and so is there, I guess, do you have your list of maybe areas or exercises that you say, I really can't do these at all, or it depends, or is it almost on a scale, right, where like I can do this exercise if I feel really good, or if I feel in a certain way, I definitely can't do that, or if you just got a list of like, these are the 5 exercises that are a definite no-go because that it impacts me so much?
Well, so that, like, I think, so for instance, Mike Kittrell's idea of the stimulus to fatigue ratio is a useful idea here. I think that idea points a lot of interesting things for a lot of people. For instance, like myself, a squat is just a terrible idea because one principle or sort of one idea is like how many weeks can you progressively overload this movement or add weight or volume or something and it not cause you chronic pain? How many weeks can you do that for with this movement? I would say eventually most people, or I'd say some people, if they overload a movement for a specific number of weeks, eventually they're going to start getting some kind of issue from just spending so much time doing that movement, or is it a certain amount of volume, etc. So basically, if I can't do the movement for at least one mesocycle pain-free, there's not much point me doing it. For instance, some examples for me would be a bench press just doesn't work. Like there's other symptoms called costochondritis, which is basically inflammation of the ribs, and that begins to flare up. That's very common within people with scoliosis. It doesn't deviate too much from like movements that flare other people up. Like I find squat, bench, deadlift are the ones that people often have issues with. A lot of people seem to have issues with RDLs as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't find it's exercise specific too much. It's mainly dosage of volume. Does it feel okay? Is someone actually able to do this pain free for like minimum 6 weeks? If they can't, then yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I think I hate to sort of maybe relate to it in one way or another, but like and definitely by no means like I have something as serious as scoliosis, James. But I was born with myself. I was born with a club foot, so basically like
Really?
yeah. So it's hard. It's basically your leg is like a golf club. So like you've got like your leg straight, and then your foot is like bent or like at the ankle, so it's like turned all the way in. So I had to have like 2 surgeries as a baby to correct that as well. But as a result of that, like I don't know the details of what they do. I think they actually snip your the tendon in your ankle, and as a result, like your mobility as you grow up, like your mobility in your ankle is just super limited, like ridiculously, and your actual calf muscle is severely impacted. So like I've posted a few pictures on social media, but like you can see a comparison between like my left calf and my right calf, and the difference is just crazy. Like it's like I've got no muscle at all in one calf, and it's like that's one of the things, right, where it's like as a bodybuilder, that's a huge impact on something like symmetry, right? Where or even the ability to train. And like you, I was in such a case where I was so focused on the squat, bench, and deadlift, and the squat was one where it was like, because I'm so weak on one side and the mobility is so different, like all it was doing after I got to a certain point, it was like just causing me pain, aggro. That stimulus to fatigue ratio just went out the window. Like, and it's like once I moved my head away from that and focusing on a specific exercise and started focusing more on what actually gave me the best benefit and how to sort of manage that pain and keep away from exercise that caused that pain, like the gains and I think the enjoyment of actual bodybuilding as well sort of like went through the roof. So
100%.
it's sort of, yeah, exactly. So it's like I think that's really important if you do have some things in that you have to manage on a day-to-day basis to really find ways to personalize that to you. And sometimes that means not listening to 90% of people online who have perfectly symmetrical physiques and have no issues at all, probably like Jack a lot, who've maybe got no injuries or no prior sort of medical issues as well. But Jack, maybe on your side, have you ever had clients who've had perhaps more chronic issues that you've had to manage as well? He's there? No, I think Jack's lagging a little bit, so that's cool.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating that like we learn all about the club foot and podiatry, and it's one of those things where I definitely relate to that. Like it's one of those things you just can't change, and it's like, okay, this is where I like stoicism. It's like, what can you do? Can you change it? No, but what can you do? Go forward with that. Like I
exactly.
find that mentality quite useful.
Mm. Yeah. And how do you continue to find enjoyment in actual bodybuilding or in your pursuit for hypertrophy? Sometimes knowing that genetics or chronic issues perhaps aren't on your side in some ways or another.
Yeah, well, I do definitely think. I think some days I think my genetics are ridiculous. I think I have the best genetics on the planet. Like, I do think in some ways I've been genetically blessed. In other ways, I think not. Like, the scoliosis issues aside, when I started bodybuilding, I was 52 kilos at like nearly 6 foot. It's like I was there was a lot of weight gain that had to occur, and I'm never going to be naturally. I'm never going to be 90 kilos, pretty lean. Like it's pretty unlikely that'll happen, and that does get to me. I don't think that's I'm not like there's no part of me that's like, oh, that just doesn't matter at all. It definitely matters, but it's just like, as people always kind of say, like the process is what matters, and the results definitely drive the process at some points. But it's like bodybuilding, as we all know, is a ridiculously slow game. Like, the only thing that's going to change in the short term is like swelling of muscles, and it's like that can only drive you for like a week. So inherently you have to have some kind of other motivation. It's like that's where I think a numbers driven point of view is quite useful. However, I think some modern progression methods in hypertrophy sometimes get away from that. And I think it depends. Like I think you can structure your program in a way that can be more inherently motivating to some, but it depends on what motivates you. Like for instance, myself, I want to be hitting PRs in terms of weight, but also in reps, etc. Like I want to hit volume load PRs, and like that's just to me signs of progress. Like when I first started, I was pressing like bloody 8 kilo dumbbells or some shit. Like I was crazy weak, and it's like for me, weight has been a sign of progress. So that's kind of yeah. And it's like for instance, if you look at bodybuilding, they're like if I do compete, I'm fine. I don't care about placing. I've had it drilled into me by enough intelligent people that I should not be like fussing about placing. Like I was talking to Eric like a long time ago, about Eric Helms, about should I compete in bodybuilding? He was like, why? And then he was like, at what time? And then I was like, maybe during my masters. And he was like, no. And we just had this conversation about it. And it was just like, yeah, especially competing, it's like that's a whole other endeavor that I don't think I'm ready to pursue yet. Although I do like the idea of trying to make myself look as freaky as possible. And I don't put it out of reach the idea of at some point taking steroids. I don't see that as completely out of reach, although it's nowhere near um, in the realm of possibility or likelihood right now. I just don't see the feasibility. I don't see the utility in it right now, I don't want to do it, but I don't see it as unlikely that I don't see it as impossible that I will do it, just because I think they're demonized a lot, but also like they are another way to drive progress. But there's trade-offs, obviously, right? And I wouldn't recommend people do them unless you're pretty committed, and that's why I don't think I'll do them yet. But if I do them, that is one thing that kind of keeps me in it now, because it's like, okay, if I ever want to do that, then how could I ever have done that if I haven't done everything I could possibly do as a natural? And it's like my good friend Josh Bridgman, he's a fantastic example of this. He was a ridiculously good natural athlete, and then he went assisted. It's like he did 7 years of natural bodybuilding as best you possibly could. He optimized everything. Then he went and assisted. So it's like, if I ever want to go assisted, it's like, if I haven't done everything, if I haven't gone like full Steve Hall, then am I really committed enough to take that step or do that? And so but I do definitely notice my motivation has waned a lot, especially during this period, like barely training, to be honest. Like the amount that I train right now is minimal, very, very minimal compared to, I guess, normal or what is optimal.
Yeah. No, I think we spoke about this last week as well. I can definitely relate to that in a massive way, with regards to the motivation side. Like especially during this period, it's just insane. And it was actually really interesting your point on the steroid aspect as well. And I think I agree with everything that you're saying on that point with regards to like it's definitely demonized, but equally I see people jumping on him way too early.
Yeah,
I
100%. Yeah,
and it's like they do it, but like they've not even become
they
close
couldn't
to
tell you
nailing.
what volume
Yeah,
means.
yeah, they
Or
couldn't
like,
even they've not even come close to like nailing everything at like all the other variables. And it's like in my opinion, I think if someone is to jump on steroid use, I think it's something that I guess should be earned more than
yeah,
rather than a way to sort of speed up progress. I think it's sort
oh,
of
100%.
you reach that maybe 90% capacity of perhaps where it should be, or your limit is genetically, and then that's perhaps when you decide to um, jump on the gear if that's something that you choose, of course.
Yeah,
Whether you do that or not is a personal decision, right? So,
yeah.
but yeah, so I definitely agree. And maybe what would be I'd be interested. This is a complete tangent, but I'd be interested to maybe what would be that point for you when you know or when you think you'd reach that decision point.
I am doubtful if I'll ever reach it, to be
Yeah.
honest. But it would have to be. I could see, like, for instance, I've never passed 75.5 kilos of body weight,
Hmm.
and I wasn't that fat then. My metabolism is crazy, like, and if, like, basically if I can't prove to myself, then I can get to a point where I am so fat that I can't see my abs anymore. It's just like until I can do that, then I don't see it. It's like that's such a basic concept, the concept of being able to gain weight just by manipulating your calories. And if I can't do that as a natural, my stomach's not getting bigger when I hop on gear. My appetite might increase a little bit, but it's not going to compensate for that.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the main, that would be the main thing. It's like my main thing that's holding me back in bodybuilding for sure is my appetite. And like I'm eating like 4,000 calories a day, and the scale doesn't budge. It's a joke. Like it's just like I remember when I first started working with Steve, I was like, we set my calories, and he was like, "Oh, just try this," and I was like, "Okay." And it's like weight didn't move, and I think I lost weight or something. And then we moved it up, and he was like, "Fuck," and it was just like, there's just something. I'm not sure what. I think I'd walk a lot or something. I'm not sure why
Yeah.
really, but that would be the point. Like if I can gain weight consistently, easily, like, and also money. Like, am I willing to spend that much money on it? Like, am I willing to? I would need a pretty stable income, life, etc. Like life would need to be in a completely different place. Like I'm 21 years old right now, trying to get my business fully off the ground. Like, you know,
That was not the time.
not at all.
No, for sure. And maybe taking it back to potentially some of the listeners, and maybe what they could get out of this. What would, for someone who is perhaps in the same shoes as I guess us, who have been training for a while, perhaps don't have the best genetics. I've seen a lot of people who maybe do have good genetics giving advice, and maybe they followed that advice and it's not really worked out for them. How would you actually approach that conversation and help them sort of either stay positive or make goals, or actually focus on being a good bodybuilder even when genetics aren't on their side?
Yeah, I I mean, I think I've been lucky to, like, I've got this story behind me that's like, oh, cool, you've done this shit in spite of that, right? So it's like I've got this motivational blah blah story, and it's like, for me, that's like, oh, I can be special or unique because of that. So it's like I have that story, and I think it's like you need, like, to me, a lot of it is like I need to prove to those people, like the people who have scoliosis who think they can't do it. So I've got that motivation, but it's like I think that is very, very difficult, because people will rock up. Like all my friends that I gym, a lot of them are stronger than me by far. I'd say their physique is not as good as mine all the time, but they're by far like 90% of the people. If I start like having a gym buddy, like within like a few weeks, a lot of them will surpass me in a number of lifts. Like I'm just not that strong, and that does get to me for sure. But it's so irrelevant; it doesn't matter. Like for me, it's like it was engrossing myself in the science is what matters, because all these gym bros, like they might have nice traps and thick delts, and they might weigh 100 kilos pretty lean, but it's like, if we, like for me, it's been conversation. If I begin to have any kind of conversation about this sort of stuff, and Lyndon Purcell has helped me a lot with the whole communication aspect of this, of not being a dickhead, of teaching me to not be a dickhead. It's like, you kind of begin to learn, like, okay, the amount that you have to learn will be more, so then you will just know more. And for me, it's like, I want to be a coach. I don't really care about being an athlete. I like being an athlete, but it's not going to make me successful. Like, it's just that. And it's like, I pride myself in, I want to be the person in the room who knows the most about hypertrophy. And in a lot of rooms, I think I'm likely to do that, especially, it's like, not when I'm doing podcasts and stuff, right? Because those people are smart as fuck. But it's like, compared to the average gym bro, I've had to learn more. And that's like, it's kind of forced, because like your genetics are shit. You have to learn more. And that in itself is a benefit. Because it's like, if you like this so much that you think you want to do it as your job, and even if you don't, that's the part that I find I wish I knew better. Like, I wish I could answer the question better effectively. Like, for the average person, I find it difficult to convey a message. But it's like you could say something along the lines of like, well, it doesn't matter, like, focus on yourself. But that's not always easy, I would say. And I think maybe I'm just optimistic, but I feel as though it doesn't bother me, because I feel like I've been lucky. Like, the stuff that I do, like, I want to make this my job. And it's like, I have the amount of passion that makes me want this to be my job. So for me, it's like, there's career motivation behind it. And there's also like the story motivation as well. So I have those different threads that motivate me to do it consistently. But it's also like the self-confidence thing. Like for me, I would hate to regress. Like, to truly regress would be in very, very painful to me. So it's like, I wouldn't want to do that. So that's one thing. But I wish I could answer the question better, but I find it often hard to, relate to certain populations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Jack, are you finally with us? Can you hear and see us? Keen to get your opinion. Nah, Jack's fucked it. You don't have no clue. His connection's way out. No, that's really cool. And maybe just to cap us off, James, you talked. I think you touched on it about whether you would ever compete or not. And you said obviously it wouldn't be during a Masters. So is it on the cards for you to actually compete? And how would you take your mind away from actually not focusing on more so winning, especially when sometimes genetics are against us? We're probably going to be going up against people who are far superior in that area. How would you go about someone who potentially wants to compete but just doesn't have that on their side?
Well, I would like focus on your strong points, I think, is one thing. Like, for instance, I know for a fact that I could get ridiculously shredded and it wouldn't be that difficult for me, because if I just stopped eating so much, that would be lovely. And it's like, that's obviously, it would get difficult at a point. Like, once you're trying to get striated glutes, that would be hard. But it's like, yeah, I that's one thing. Like, focus on the points that you're strong at. Like, I think, and like, for instance, those are the times when you're going to look the best, and take pictures. Like, take a lot of pictures. Like, when you look insane, take pictures of that and document that. Like, people usually look pretty shit on stage compared to what they can post on Instagram. Like I can post a picture where I look insane, and then I could 2 minutes later I can post one where I look like utter shit. It's like literally angles, lighting, etc. So for me personally, it would be a lot of like, okay, I can get some pictures that will make people just go, holy fuck, that's a. I don't want to look like that, but I want to basically get the reaction where people will say, holy shit, that's a freak. I don't want to look like that, but they probably know something. Like that's one piece of motivation for me. Like, but I would find it hard for myself to separate myself from winning because, like, for instance, I play COD, and when I do that, I don't care about having fun. I want to win, and it's just like I don't know. I'm a competitive aholic, and that's why I don't know. Competing's a fantastic idea, but it's just like because if you look at competing, like for instance, Helms has done a lot of great work on this. It's like I think competing is very psychologically dangerous. Like I think it's you're hard pressed to say that bodybuilding is a healthy sport. I would say I think it's physiologically pretty healthy, but psychologically it's a bit of a mess. I think. Great sport though, love it, but I do think it's dangerous psychologically, and I've talked about this a little bit online before, but it's I definitely struggle with mental health issues, and I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what the problem is there, but it's like I don't know if I want to tempt those. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe one day. Like I would like to get ridiculously shredded, like just make myself look like an anatomy chart.
Yeah.
But it's like the trade-off's so massive, and I have like my aspirations for business and all that are greater than I think my aspirations for bodybuilding a lot of the time. So it's like I think the detriment to my relationships would be massive. I don't think I would I don't trust myself to personally put enough weight in my relation or invest enough in my relationships in a time like that. I think I would be the kind of person to let everything fall by the wayside. And I'm definitely now not mature enough to do that. Like definitely not. Maybe one day, but we'll see. Need more stoicism.
Yeah, that's to be honest, that's a really mature mindset anyway. Like the fact that you can say that you're not ready right now, I think is massive. So, and I actually relate to a lot of what you said throughout this whole podcast. I think, James, it's been really cool to sort of hear what you've been saying and actually be able to resonate with a lot of it. So it's yeah, it's always cool to have guys like you on the podcast, mate. So I really do appreciate it. If maybe we'll leave it there, but if people want to find you or find out more about what you do, where can they find you?
So if people want to find me, my podcast is probably what I'm most known for, I guess. I've done like 165 episodes. It's kind of like Mia right now, missing in action. It's not really active right now because I'm kind of restructuring it because there's a variety of reasons. I just want to have more of a creative storytelling aspect. So that's happening. But the podcast has like a bajillion episodes. So listen to those if you want some very unique and controversial conversations, I would say. I'm also on YouTube, barely, but that will be changing in the next few. That's probably more where it will be heading. I'm also on Instagram as the Hypertrophy Hub, or I think it's just Hypertrophy Hub, actually. I should know that. Or James _Walsham, which is my Instagram name. That's WALSHAM. So Wall 1L Sham. That's where I post like a lot of dumb shit. It's not really professional, but I just post like shit that I find funny or like something interesting about hypertrophy.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not a professional account.
No, awesome. Yeah, and we'll link all that stuff in our show notes if that's what you call them. But yeah, all right, cool. Well, thanks a lot for coming on, buddy, and thank you everyone for listening. And we will see you in the next episode.